What is it like to live in the furthest reaches of Nepal? Take Karnali, the Wild West of Nepal. This is the biggest administrative zone in the country, but also the most sparsely populated. Across all indicators of development, it ranks among the poorest regions of Nepal. But the map is not the territory. As Alfred Korzybski said, whatever we may imagine of Karnali, whatever we may read about it in the news, good or bad, cannot measure up to the reality. We were here to see what the real Karnali was like, what the lives of those living in Karnali were like. Here it was that we found Lilumati. Through the eyes of this 10-year-old girl, we were to learn how the conditions of the present can limit the possibilities of the future. Kathmandu is the bustling capital of Nepal. Long the nation's hub for politics, culture and the economy, this mountain valley is still called Nepal by villagers of a certain age. Indeed, the experience of living in the relatively prosperous Kathmandu Valley can insulate one from the harsh realities of the wider world. The inward-looking tendency of the state, based in Kathmandu, was a prime cause of the violent Maoist insurgency of the 1990s. But times are changing. Minds are opening up to the neglected corners of Nepal. Aldous Huxley declared that to travel is to discover, and that everyone is wrong about other countries. This could apply just as well to one's own country. The consequences of not knowing one's country, as Nepalis have found out, can be devastating. Our journey to Karnali began in the mind. We had heard about the material poverty that haunted the region, as well as tales of its spiritual riches. But we were not content to rely on the accounts of others. We decided to document the reality of the far west ourselves. And so it was that we left the claustrophobic chaos of Kathmandu, flying down to the hot border town of Nepalganj, then back up to the high altitude Simikot in Karnali. The morning after we arrived in Phadera Gaon, it becomes clear just how different Lilumati's life is from ours. So mundane an activity as going to the toilet is fraught with difficulty. There's not a single toilet in the village. Modesty compels everyone in the village to wake before the first light and scatter across the fields and forests to find a suitable spot to squat. The difficulties of life in the Karnali, it could be said, begin the moment you open your eyes. These difficulties were obvious in the days preceding our arrival at Phadera Gaon. Soon after landing at 3,000 meters, we left Simikot, the district headquarters of Humla district. As we descended the rough trail down to Nepal's longest river, after which the region is named, we encountered villages ascending steadily. We were seeking the land and its people. They were converging on Simikot to seek healthcare. When we told them of our mission, they told us of the hardship of their lives. We didn't even have to go out of our way to understand how different our journeys were. For us, the trip was a voyage of discovery. For the porters carrying our food, clothes and equipment, it was a means of survival. Even so, these were the lucky ones. Working for a daily cash wage is preferable to exhausting labor on the fields of more prosperous neighbors in exchange for food. Portering is tough work. Of course, off the tourist trail, porters may have to carry up to 80 kilos of goods up and down steep, dangerous mountain trails. But a week of such work is more than most locals can aspire to. When we came across these young girls, the porters recognized them from when they had performed together back in their villages.
Yagi salla bagina yo dubai salla isara bore. Yagi salla bagina yo dubai salla isara bore. Bero bagila gina yo etoro bu akoyalo. Palitoi pali pore ko palitoi betoi pare naulai. Molai lari pore ko jivan bore gaula gakoi.
With cash in their pockets, they are keen to impress the ladies. Amidst the beauty of the high mountains, there is no respite for the people of Karnali. They are cut off from the mainstream of development by a combination of climate, geography, and deliberate neglect on the part of the state. The unprofitability of agriculture and the lack of job means that many, especially the men, are compelled to migrate to Nepalganj, Kathmandu, and further afield on a seasonal basis. It is a long journey and a difficult one, as we soon found out. With no roads connecting Simikot with the rest of the country, we had to take 2 flights from Kathmandu and were fortunate to arrive the same day. Weather conditions mean that passengers are often stranded for days at a time. It is not just the people of Karnali who are cut off from the wider world. All vital goods that cannot be produced here have to be flown in at sky-high prices. In many villages, it is the women who remain. They are responsible for taking care of the children, the livestock, and the fields. With low literacy rates, there are very few opportunities to improve their situation. They have to make the best of it. And yet, they retain pride in their culture, which in the lower regions of Karnali is an intriguing fusion of Hinduism and shamanism. It was tempting for us to imagine that perhaps things here were not as bad as the media made them out to be. Culture serves many purposes, chief among which is to sustain the spirit of its people through times good and bad. But it has its limits. When we arrived in Phadera Gaon after days of walking, it was to witness a shaman's healing ceremony. A little girl was seriously ill, and her family had chosen to employ the services of a local dhami, a shaman, to cure her.
लेप गरी पाखन पेसिकन काँचो कचो जामिराजीले घरि मोथिया गाँठा गरी लेप गरी पाखन पेसिकन गतिलाई सालका भकाइदे आँटो आँटोको लगाइदे सातजोटा हरहुरे सातजोटा बाइक मोतिया गनी टाटो पहिरिदे दोक्दो खालो केही नै चार बिहे मोतिया तो गिरिया पुग्दो साइड तेरा पुत्तन्ता खापो
It was a fascinating occasion, but it was also hard to watch, feeling, as we did, that the little girl might benefit rather more from the services of modern medicine.
Uncle Buru हजुरको छोरीलाई धामी धमेला पनि गर्यो एकचोटी हस्पिटल पनि लग्यो हुन्थ्यो नि के भाउ ठ्याक्क थाहा हुन्छ
हुन्छ हस्पिटलै लग्नु पर्ला अब धामी जारी पनि गरायो के रे अनि सन्चो त्यति साह्रो सन्चो भएन तर कहिलेकाहीँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि हस्पिटल टाढा छ धेरै दिनको टाढा छ अनि असाध्य आतुरी अप्ठ्यारो भए अवस्थामा अनि धामी जाँगरी हेराएर हुन्छ कि अथवा कोही आएर हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा थिए अब ठिकै छ भोलि बस्दै ल्याउला त एकदमै राम्रो सल्लाह त्यही नै गराउँला हस्पिटल लगाउँला
We were not the only ones to think so. Overhearing Lilumati, observing her giving voice to our own concerns, it seemed that modern education was making its presence felt in this remote corner of Nepal, even if it could not yet overcome the dogma of tradition. At least the youngest generations, we thought, were learning how to transcend the hand fate had dealt them. We found out later that Lilumati's mother had died the previous year, and the intervention of the local dhami had been of little use. It was only natural that her daughter would seek answers elsewhere. With education, she might overcome the limitations of their condition. Indeed, we had seen Lilumati hard at work studying for school. What was it she was so focused on? The lesson she was reading by the light of a jharo was called Lilu's Diary, the story of a girl in Kathmandu. Lilumati and her friends were to study it in the school the next day.
Asia Chol School BYY BUSS Busman Gadi BUS.
It didn't take long for us to realize that the best way to portray the life of a girl in Karnali was to place it alongside the life of a girl in Kathmandu. We decided to film a day in the life of Lilumati of Karnali as she followed a day in the life of Lilu of Kathmandu. Lilumati's day, in fact, starts even before the day begins. Once she has gone to the toilet, her household chores begin. Everywhere she is followed by her younger sister, Gupta, to whom she is a mother in all but name.
के पुरा गर्दै अरे यो मैलाहरू लाउनु पार्नु परेन लाउनु पारेपछि घिउ गर्नु पर्यो बिक्री गर्नु पर्यो तिमी गर्न म गर्न टालटोली गर्नु पर्यो त पछि खाउली रे मै पछि खाउली
With the list of chores behind her, Lilumati sits down to go over the day's lessons. Lilu's diary. Perhaps this is how the subject of her lessons, Lilu, starts her day in far-away Kathmandu.
कपा समय पाएपछि किताब हात पढ्नु पैजानी तल गाई छाडी जा दादा हात जा.
But even this parallel between the lives of these two young girls is not to be. Schoolwork will have to wait for school. For Lilumati, homework means just that. Work at home. All over Lilumati's village, children, girls in particular, are struggling to finish their chores before they attend to the matter of their education. We ask Lilumati's father why she has so much work to do.
अब स्कुल पनि जाँदैछ है जानु त अब टाइम त उति मिल्दैन मम्मी बितिसकी बितेपछि घाँस ल्याउनै पर्यो दाउरो ल्याउनै पर्यो पानी ल्याउनै पर्यो खाना गर्नै पर्यो दाउरो ठुलो हुनै पर्यो गोरु हेर्नै पर्यो कहिले बाख्रा पनि चराउन जानै पर्दो अब त्यसैले गरेर त कोही पनि छैन मान्छे अब ती नानी दुई सानी केटी छन् के गरी पढाउने के गरी खुवाउने तिनीहरु के गरी तालो दिने भनेर मेरो मनमा धेरै खुलदुरी भइराखेको छ.
Indeed, for some parents, sending their children to school is a luxury they cannot afford. At least Lilumati, unlike Lilu, doesn't have to worry about getting ready for school. No skirts to be ironed, no shoes to be polished. She doesn't even have a school uniform. Once the chores are done, she is ready. And off they go, finally.
प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बहुजाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति छन् विशाल अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल
फटाफट सत्र फटाफट सत्र
Lilumati's school is a basic affair. There are more students than what the school facilities can accommodate at any rate.
उड्नु पर्दैन गुड मर्निङ सुड मर्निङ गर्नु पर्दैन हल्ला गरेर आउँछन् बाँदर बच्चाहरू उड्नु पर्दैन गुड मर्निङ भन्नु पर्दैन मिलेर बस्नु कति खाँचा खाँच्छन् अरे बेन्च सेन्च त्यस्तै छ सबैलाई अवेरनेस बेन्च छैन अब गरी के गर्छौ तिमीहरूले भोलि केटीहरूले यो बेन्च केटीहरूलाई छोड्ने है बोल्दै है कोही आधा यो बेन्च बस्ने आधा भुइँमा बस्ने ल ल ल नम्बर 1 बाट कहिले यताबाट बेन्चमा बस्ने कहिले 22 बाट बोल्दै आउने बुझ्यो कि नै होइन यता बस्नु तिमी अब यता बस्नु अहिले पर सर यहाँ बस्नु आज न्युज डायरी लेसन पढाउला अनि त्यसपछि पहिला हाजिर गरौँ है ल रोल नम्बर 1 रमिला 2 तुलो 3 दीप 10 विपना 8 छैन 11 लिलुमती 12 संगीता ल सबैले किताब निकाला त सबैले किताब आफ्नो किताब पल्टाउ हेर लिलु डायरीको त्यो होमवर्क सबैले गरेछ छैन होमवर्क गरेछ छैन कण्ठ गर्नु भने पनि कण्ठ गरेछ कि छैन किन गरिन कण्ठ हो अनि तैले अनि तैले किन गरिन अनि तैले एकचोटि फेरि पढाउँछु आज लास्ट चोटि तिमीले आज पढाउँदा पनि बुझेनौ भने म कहिल्यै पढाउँदिन र तिमीहरू फेल हुन्छौ अनि यही कक्षामा यही पाठ पढेर बस्ने भयो ल बस
Unfortunately, it's not just the students who have problems finding the time to finish their homework. The teachers here too struggle to manage their households and fields with their badly paid jobs.
My name is Lilu. मेरो नाम के अरे लिलु My name is Lilu. I live with my father, mother and sister. म कसँग बस्छु रे बाबासँग दाजु छैन सिस्टर दिदी मदर भनेको आमा फादर भनेको बाबा वाह I have a nice doggy मसँग के छ रे अर्को सानो कुकुर छ तिमीसँग छ कि छैन घरमा छ I am not a lazy girl म के होइन रे लेजी गर्ल भनेको लेजी भनेको के हो थाहा छ अल्छी म लेजी गर्ल होइन म केटी कोले भनिरहेछ त यहाँ एभ्री डे प्रत्येक दिन आई गेट अप एट 6 o'clock म कति बजे उठ्छु रे 6:30 मा के गर्छु रे आई टेक अ बाथ पहिला के गर्छु रे मुख धुन्छु अथवा बाथ नुहाउँछु एन्ड ड्रिङ्क अ कप अफ मिल्क बोले के गर्छ रे दुध एक गिलास के गर्छु रे एक कप दुध पिउँछु रे and then त्यसपछि I do my homework म त्यसपछि के गर्छु आफ्नो होमवर्क गर्छु until it is 9 o'clock कति बजेसम्म 9 बजेसम्म मैले के गर्छु रे होमवर्क गर्छु when जब it is 9 o'clock I take my meal उले के गर्दै रहेछ खाना खाँदै रहेछ तिमीहरू सधैँ 9 बजे ठ्याक्क खाना खान्छ त खाँदैन कहिले ढिलो खान्छ कहिले तिमीहरू स्कुलमा त कहिले कहिले के हो त 9 भन्दा 10:15 तिर आउँछ पुग्छ पुग्दैन गोरपालीबाट यहाँ स्कुल सक्छौ तिमीहरू 8 बजे हो 8 बजे आउनु पर्छ त्यसैले त्यसको ठाउँमा के भयो लिल्लुको उसमा के गाडी हुँदो होला हैन
Lilu in Kathmandu goes to a school in a car or a school bus. For Lilumati and her friends, who have walked and skipped along rocky mountain trails to get to school, the notion of a car itself is a challenge. This is not a surprise, given that everything gets to the village on the backs of donkeys, sheep, and the villagers themselves. These boys and girls have never seen a car.
तिमीले गाडी देखेको छ कस्तो होला जस्तो लाग्छ गाडी
4 फिरकारिया 2 झ्याला गरिया मान्टो बोल्ने गरिया पर यो बाटोले गरे के तरफ गरिया 4 फिरका गरिया देखे नै मुख चेप्टो गरिया फिस बाटोले गरिया
बनाउन आउँछ हजुर बना त आइज त ल
मगन आउँछ
ल आइज त चलचित्रमा
While Lilumati and her classmates struggle to comprehend the life of a faraway Lilu, the children in their charge entertain themselves in the school grounds. Some practice using their writing boards, a piece of wood covered in ash to provide a surface to write on and cleaned with soil. Back in Kathmandu, Lilu's day is over. She is picked up by her driver and taken home to her family. A warm meal and perhaps a movie before bed if she manages to finish her homework in time. Lilumati's day too is drawing to a close. But there are no warm comforts awaiting her. With no electricity, there's nothing more to do but to sit around the fire with a small family after a simple meal. She has to dry her clothes and those of Gupta because they have nothing else to wear. But the rain has done more than just getting them wet. The damage is more serious than it might appear. There are limited supplies of school textbooks in Karnali, and even if a father could afford to buy a replacement, he would have to wait for the following year.
अच्छा मेटिया नहीं चिड़िया मत हंडे कि मेटिया है ना
मिटिया
अक्कुपानामा के किनेको काकापुर चेपिकर ल्याउनु पर्ने झोला निक गरी सुरक्षा गर्नुपर्ने त्यही लापरवाही गरिदिए भोलिदेखि केले किताब किन्ने अब स्कुलबाट दिया किताब त्यही भिगाइलिस् अब जोडिकन पढ मास्टर पनि परे हानन्ना
But there is worse news in store for Lilumati at the end of a long day. Her friend, the little girl who was undergoing a cure with the local shaman when we arrived the night before, has died.
तेरी हाते औषधि उपचार गर्न लागि लिएछन् अब अधबाटै बितिगै छ के गर्नु
Lilumati cries herself to sleep. But are her tears for herself and her torn textbooks, or for her friend who might have been saved had she been taken to a health post in Simikot? Her grandparents would have lived and died in Karnali, never knowing what was possible beyond the narrow horizons of their isolation. Her parents knew the frustration of great things happening beyond their reach, of missed opportunities grasped momentarily, then lost to the inefficiencies and corruptions of national development. With healthcare and education coming to Karnali, Lilumati and her peers may have been able to dream of living the life of Lilu in Kathmandu. Yet the darkness that has shrouded the Karnali region for centuries continues to obscure her future. For Lilumati, the future has not yet arrived.